how can we say things? How can we use our voices for good?
Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Recipe for Success. I am so excited to chat with our guest today, Lauren Simmonds, otherwise known as the Fearless Fashionista. I just recently connected with Lauren because I had reached out to a former podcast guest, you might remember, Gregory Jerome, and I was looking for a woman to talk to a mastermind group that we have about, developing your own personal style and fashion tips. And I thought, I don't really want to keep her secret. I don't want to keep her just for this small group of women. I would like to elevate her platform and have this discussion on a larger format. So I am super excited to have Lauren join us today. So I'd like just to start it off by having you introduce the audience, tell them a little bit about yourself and how you became the Fearless Fashionista.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nancy. Thank you for sharing your platform with me. I'm excited to be here. I love talking about style. As mentioned, I am Lauren Simmonds, and I am a personal stylist, a style strategist, author, and podcaster. And my message is focused around helping women to achieve their goals, be the best they can be using style as a part of that total strategy. So I got my start many years ago. I think I always like to joke and say that I came out of the womb wearing a pair of stilettos because I don't have any memories not caring about fashion and style. And my mother, she used to sew, and she was always very stylish and fashionable. So I had a blueprint in my home. So that in addition to, I guess, my innate love of beautiful things, led me down a path where, as a teen, I thought I wanted to be a fashion model. That never happened. Um, and I often surrounded myself in situations where I would be able to dress nicely, as I, segued into a corporate career, I wound up conducting style workshops and really starting to develop my styling chops and a voice of authority in terms of style. And we can get into more detail later in the podcast, but I'm just trying to give a high level timeline. And then since then, I started a personal style blog. I've written a book. I launched my styling business. I speak to women's groups and to organizations, professional organizations, about the benefits of elevating your personal style. So I will stop there because I know that was a mouthful.
No, that was amazing. So, I love fashion. Oh yes, we need a style workshop at You Parrot Symposium. We might have to talk about this. Um, I love fashion. I love style. It's always been something that's been important to me as well. Have I always had the best style? Probably not, but I thought so at the time. But I've always loved it, and I've always been attracted to people who have a style of their own, both men and women. If they have a style, to me, they stand out in the crowd, and for some reason, I feel that they exude a sense of authority, whether
Mhm.
that's a casual style or a formal style. If you can read it as a style, to me, I'm drawn to people that I just feel like they own themselves when they have a style.
I love that. So it's like a community of people who speak to each other without even communicating. So my perspective on style is everyone does have their unique style. It's like a fingerprint. And although there may be similarities, there's always an opportunity to put your own special stamp on things. So style is like a language. Like when I see a woman or anyone actually who has a great sense of style, even if they're wearing things that I wouldn't wear, I can appreciate the authenticity and the artistry. So I think style is like a language.
I like that. Same. And I can always appreciate it, even if I know that not in a million years would I ever put that on, or it wouldn't look good on me, or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
When somebody owns that style, I just am so appreciative of the effort they put in to creating that. I appreciate that.
I agree.
So, one thing that's kind of interesting to me is because, well, I'm older, and so I've gone through a lot of style and fashion evolutions. And when I first came into the professional, can I speak? The business world, let's go with that one because I can't seem to spit professional out for some reason. So when I first came into the business world, we were told don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. And there was kind of a code to that. It wasn't like dress the way you think you should dress when you get to that job, but dress the way we expect you to. And that generally meant suits, which I had a lot of skirt suits back in, don't miss those. Um, it was very buttoned up and you could still have some sense of style, but it was kind of a sea of sameness.
Mhm.
I do love that we have left that part behind. Um, but I think because we left it behind, people forgot about style. A lot of people forgot about style, not everybody, but a lot of people forgot that it still matters how we present ourselves because it talks to us in here as well as to the public.
Mhm. Absolutely. Style is a great way to differentiate yourselves from other people. Many of us are not taught how to dress, so we take our fashion cues and style cues from the media, our families, our friends, and other environments. And I don't know how many of us actually take the time to figure out, okay, who am I? What situations do I find myself in? What are my professional and social activities? And what are my personal tastes? Like, what do I really like? Not what other people think. Like, what do I really like? Like, I think for a lot of us, our our taste and likes and dislikes, they can be informed by our circles. So taking a moment to really think about what you want and what you like, and then looking at the environment that you're in, figuring out what the dress codes or expected dress codes are, and then dressing better because most people don't put enough effort into their style. So if you're looking for an easy way to stand out, utilizing your style can be a great way to do that. That is not to suggest that it's going to solve all your problems or instantly help you get promoted or make a lot of money. But again, it's one tactic in this toolkit, a strategic toolkit that's comprised of, how you invest in yourself in other areas in terms of education, investing in relationships, so on and so forth. Style is an often underutilized tool. And the great thing about it is every woman can do something to improve her style. Like, it doesn't discriminate. No matter who you are, what your body shape is, what you look like, you can improve your style and use that as a strategy, as a one element of your overall professional strategy and life strategy.
I like that. And the other thing I would add to that is I don't think it matters what your budget is either, because
Oh,
you can,
absolutely.
I mean, certainly you can buy different things if you have a bigger budget, but
Mhm.
style isn't about money.
I agree. And great style has absolutely nothing to do with money. It has to do with creativity, resourcefulness, your own personal perspective. Um, you know, if you don't have a lot of money, there are budget stores that you can shop at, thrift stores, consignment stores. If you are someone who is creative, people like I wish I picked up my mother's knack for sewing, but I didn't. So I'd rather shop than learn how to sew. But for people who do sew, that's another cost-effective way to have great style, and it's also a great way to have unique style because anything you make is going to be a one-of-a-kind piece.
Yeah, I follow a couple of people on social media that buy these things, take them apart, and make something that's so amazing. And I'm like, I wish I had that level of creativity because it's so impressive to me. But this is a great question, and I'm going to pop it up now before we kind of move on to other things. But what about a capsule wardrobe? Because we hear a lot about everybody should have a capsule wardrobe, and we can build around it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So I was going to put together an ebook called "The Capsule Wardrobe is Dead," and the reason I say that is because a lot of times we hear these style buzzwords, or there are these terms that are supposed to help women, but they often leave us more confused because everyone is in search of, okay, what is a capsule wardrobe? If you go to Google and type in capsule wardrobe, you'll get all kinds of definitions. You should have X many pieces and X many tops and bottoms and so on and so forth. And I find that it can be a little not helpful because then it puts further constraints on what women are thinking they should include in their wardrobes. So alternatively, I would just suggest um, figuring out, taking an honest assessment of your life. So what are your professional engagements? Are you an entrepreneur? Do you work in a corporate environment? Is business casual required? Like, what is your professional style of dress? What are your social engagements? What do you do after hours? And figure out, like, and what I tell my clients, what I have my clients do is put together, whether you use Canva or go old school and cut out magazine, pictures from magazines, develop a visual of what you envision your style looking like and how it fits into your life. And then now is when you start, once you identify the types of pieces that you need to have in your wardrobe, um, figure out a color palette. And this is kind of the same concept of a capsule wardrobe, but it takes the pressure off saying you have to have this, you have to have that. I find that once you identify colors and styles that you like, shop in those color families, and a lot of those pieces will help you mix and match. So I don't want to restrict women and say, okay, if you have X amount of tops and X amount of bottoms, you can make X amount of outfits. Because from a numerical standpoint, that makes sense, but from a practical standpoint, it doesn't, because just because you have a top and a bottom that match doesn't mean they look right together, because the style may not be right, the cut may not be right. So I try to, again, stay away from numbers, but think about themes. How you spend most of your time, what types of pieces you should have on your wardrobe, in your wardrobe, based on your lifestyle. Start thinking about colors, and then if you stick to colors and patterns and textures that can be mixed and matched, then you can create almost an unlimited wardrobe.
Yeah, those are great tips. I want to pop this one up here before I make another comment because I think this is awesome. Consignment shops are amazing for handbags. So, yes, agree
Mhm.
with that one 100%. So, another thing that I have done before that I think is helpful is I've created a Pinterest board around, like maybe I'm going on a trip. How do I want to dress? And
Yes.
then I've used those images on Google search to come up with options that are similar. So, that's kind of a little trick, little behind the scenes trick that people can use as well.
Yes.
Um, couple of sorry, my brain's all over the place because I have so much I actually want to ask you and so many things I want to say. One of the things I was going to comment on is when I was first starting my business, I there was about a 5-year period of time when I worked from home. And every morning I got up, I put on work clothes, I went to Starbucks and bought myself a cup of coffee and came back
Mhm.
and went into my home office. And I
Mhm.
remember people asking me at Starbucks many times, "Why are you dressed up?" And for me, that was how I suited up and mentally prepared myself to be in work mode, and so that I wasn't all over the place. I could be
Mhm.
focused on work because I was dressed for work. Oh, this is a great one too, and I'll have you address this one. Fit is super important. Don't be afraid to have your clothing tailored to fit you. I
Oh,
know you
yeah.
have something to say about this one.
Absolutely. So one of the things that actually makes your clothes look more expensive is clothing that fits well. So even if you have a less expensive or moderately priced piece, if it's not the best fit, taking it to a tailor and having it nipped and tucked in the right places can make it look more like a custom item, which is a great way to think about style. So I talk about, different things to consider when you shop and purchase clothing. Fit is way up there, because you can have a great piece, or something really expensive or something high quality, and it will be cheapened if it doesn't have the right fit. Now, the one exception is if you are leaning into a specific look. For example, an oversized boxy blazer that has been in style for past few seasons. I think it's changing now. I think it's getting a little more streamlined and structured. But over the past several years, these big oversized boxy blazers were, the statement piece, and something like that is a little more intentional. There's a difference between leaning into an extreme version of a look versus something that's just ill-fitting or shapeless and baggy.
So one couple things I want to have you talk about, because I know that some of the people on this call are or on this webinar are also in my industry. We attend industry events, we travel, we speak, we do different things. So I'd like to talk about, first of all, can we say how embarrassed we are for most people in the airports these days? Because I don't know why they think it's okay to go out in public like that. So
Oh,
I'd like to first talk about how can you dress with style and comfort for a good travel day? Because you can do it. It doesn't need to be stretch pants or your pajama pants that have holes in
right.
them. There's
Mhm.
ways to do that. So what are your suggestions around that?
So I would recommend, like, for industries that this would be permissible, dark denim is a great way to be comfortable, but also add a little polish to your look. In recent years, denim has become really elevated and interesting shapes, looking like actual suits. There are a couple of brands that I like, and Veronica Beard. Um,
Love Veronica Beard.
mhm. And okay, it's 5 to 7. That's the name of the brand, but it's in French, and I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. What is it?
I am not French. I am not going to be any help there.
But the translation is 5 to 7. They have amazing denim pieces, so they're interesting, professional, and a little edgy. Other things that I would think about, the fact that women often we have a lot of leeway when it comes to style. What I would stay away from is anything that's overly sexy or brings attention in a way that doesn't align with your personal brand and what you're trying to portray. But there are so many options nowadays. Like there are comfortable and stylish brands. I also recommend if you travel a lot, making sure that you look at the fabric content to make sure that they're easy care fabrics, things that can pack easily. So even some of the athleisure brands have pieces that are constructed in such a way where
They
they
do.
are great for packing and travel, but also have a professional look. So
Yep.
there are styles out there. And I would also recommend, if you want to stand out in a positive way at a conference, you said something earlier, Nancy, about the sea of sameness. And I was like, yes, I've actually used that expression before because it describes so many situations that we're in. I have a 9 to 5, and I work in the financial services industry. And most people wear very nondescript clothing. Um, no one really stands out except me because I use my style as part of my strategy to differentiate myself. And my professional style has allowed me to take advantage of professional opportunities, such as conducting workshops. My first speaking engagement came as a result of the way I show up. An HR professional just said, "Hey, we have a group of interns. We're creating some programming. Would you talk to them about style?" That was my very first opportunity. I had never done public speaking before, but I was given that opportunity based on how I show up. Now, that's not to say that everyone wants to take that path, but people can see you differently based on how you show up. Again, you have to have the skills, the talent, the intelligence, all that stuff to back it up. But having a pretty packaging, and I know it may sound shallow or sexist or whatever, and this is not just a message applicable to women, it's applicable to everyone. It's like your packaging matters.
It
Um,
does. Your
yeah, and
brand. It's your
I'll
part of
take
your
a pause.
brand.
Exactly. Exactly.
I agree. So one thing I do when I travel, because I'm on the West Coast, so usually it involves a 5 to 6 hour plane ride almost anywhere I'm going, is I often wear, well, similar to what I have on now, kind of a nice shift dress that's not super constrictive. I always have a cashmere sweater with me so that I can adjust for temperature on the plane. I mean, I think everybody probably calls me the sweater girl because I always have a sweater with me because especially at conferences, the rooms change temperatures constantly, and it can be freezing or it can be hot.
Hmm.
But a dress for me is super comfortable for traveling because it's not constricting around the waist when you're sitting down. It's easy to go use the restroom, so
Hmm.
it makes things very comfortable and easy. So that's also a good option. But let's talk about. Oh, wait a second. I've got to throw this other one back up there because I thought this. Okay, so Emma said, "What do you think about mixing some casual pieces, Converse, for example, with professional wear to demonstrate character?" I can guess your
Yes.
answer.
Yes, 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 and yes. So, as I mentioned, I do work at a financial services company, but the dress code has been relaxed. And I think, after the pandemic, everyone was like, okay, style is not as important. We want to be comfortable first and foremost. So, the dress code has been even more relaxed, but I still dress up. And on days where I don't dress up, I use sneakers, whether they're Converse. Last week, I wore a pair of interesting print pants with New Balance 574 in baby pink suede. So I am saying, like, go for it. If it is something that can be, pulled off in an environment and be accepted, or if you want to push the boundaries a little, I love that. I feel like in every environment you can push, well, not every environment, but in many environments you can push the boundaries a little on style. So I say go for it.
Okay, so I'm completely off script. I warned you this is probably going to happen because I'm like, you're just, this is just one of my favorite topics. So let's talk about accessories because you have amazing glasses on,
Oh,
and
thank
I'm
you.
clear you use those as part of your fashion style. And how can people incorporate? Maybe they just aren't comfortable with a bold piece of clothing, but maybe they can use an accessory or another item to add some pizzazz. Give us some
Mhm.
tips.
That so you actually said a lot right there. So you're definitely on the right track. I've been wearing eyeglasses, corrective lenses since like the fifth grade, and the first several years or maybe first decade or two of doing that, I didn't have the most stylish eyewear, and I felt like nerdy, and I felt like I fit every stereotype that a nerdy glasses, from a visual perspective. Looking back, I'm like, oh, how did my parents let me go out the house looking like that? But then I got my own insurance and I started buying my own frames and adding my own spin and personal flair to it. And then as time has gone on, I really started leaning into that because I'm like, I can't, like, I tried contact lenses and that didn't really work out for me. And I'm like, okay, if I really have to do this glasses thing, let me lean into it. And, I started wearing, um, funky eyeglasses, and I incorporate my eyewear into my budget, and I use my flexible spending account to, make sure that I have a line item for eyewear because it's an important part of who I am, and it's a great way to make a statement. You can almost instantly upgrade your look by having a cool pair of eyewear. If it's a statement piece, it will prompt comments and questions. Style can help you develop relationships. So use the eyewear as a tool. And it's also great for in person. And if you do a lot of video conference calls, that's an easy way to be stylish all of the time. Statement jewelry. So I have this cuff necklace on. I have on a statement dress. So you can use, you don't want to do all over prints or something as bold. Incorporate a signature piece, like maybe a fun handbag or a fun belt, statement shoes, socks. I mean, the list is endless.
I love that, and you great tip about the FSA. I hope everyone took that note because we are talking to people in insurance. So, FSA, HSA funds can be used to purchase prescription lenses or glasses, which does include frames, and doesn't say how many you can buy per year. So, fun tip. Okay. So another thing I'm going to bring up because I, of course, was all over your website and all the information. So you typically have fun hair too.
Oh, well,
So
no hair.
well, but let's talk about hair because although this color isn't the prettiest at the moment, just I don't know, within the last 6 months or so, I've decided I cannot talk today. I have decided to start letting it be its natural self more. And at first, I was really struggling with, well, if it's curly, is that still professional or not?
Hmm.
Um, I'm still undecided. I still haven't come to complete terms with is it okay or not. But let's talk about hair as a part of a person's personal style because it is.
Okay, so can we talk about how sexist the fact that we question whether the texture of our hair
Yes,
is
let's talk
professional or
about that.
not? Like, where did that come from? Like, hair can be beautiful in any texture. My thing about hair is I view it as an accessory as well. So at this point in my life, and for many years, actually a few decades, I've been wearing my hair generally, I've been wearing it short, some version of short, whether it's, almost closer to the scalp, whether it's short and curly or blonde or whatever. It generally doesn't go longer than a few inches. And that's because it's inconvenient to spend time. It's expensive to spend money getting your hair done constantly. And one of the most important, so it's low maintenance. And I love the way I look with short hair. I just
You do
do.
look amazing, and I love it blonde too, by the way. Both
And
both looks are good on you.
Thank you. So a couple of things. Women, so I'm 51, so I target women 40 plus. That's my sweet spot in terms of who I serve. And as we get older and as we go into menopause, I'm postmenopausal also. I went into menopause at 46. So my body's been going through a lot. And recently I experienced some hair loss. And that's one of the reasons why I've been keeping it short and I haven't been dyeing it because I'm like, okay, hair loss is a part of the aging process. I don't need to exacerbate that. So, and I'm like, and I'm starting to get gray. And it's like, maybe I need to just chill and let my hair do what it's meant to do instead of trying to do all these other things. So I believe in using it as an accessory. Hair is great. No, as long as it's well groomed and it looks, polished, I think that is something to consider.
I appreciate that perspective. So I can definitely relate on the early menopause. I went through it at 40. So, and
Wow.
I'm way, way, way past that, past you. So, fortunately, it does come back. So that's a good thing. You will get more of it back. But since you brought it up, I do want to talk about women. We can even include men in this discussion over 40, because a lot of people kind of stop trying.
That angers
What
me.
It does me too. So let's talk about that. Why do you think that happens? And how can they re-find their style or their zest for looking good? I'm trying to say this without coming across in the wrong way, because we don't necessarily dress for others. We dress for ourselves. We dress for the way it makes us feel. And then how others see us is an extension of that. And I
Hmm.
think that when we give up on personal style, when we give up caring about how we look, it affects you inside too.
Hmm. And I think a lot of people like to undervalue how important style can be because they don't know how to dress, or maybe they have trauma associated with clothing. I know a lot of women I work with have these issues. Someone critiqued their body or the way they dress in a callous and insensitive way, or it can be any range of things. So there can be a lot of trauma associated with how we dress. So that's one part of it. And it's like getting into the mind and understanding how women think about style and why they dress the way they dress is kind of a piece of it. So I have a tendency, like you say, when the conversation gets away from you, that happened to me because I was about to go in a completely different direction, Nancy. What was the question again?
Basically, the question was, why do you think that they give up? And I think you kind of answered that because it might have been of a comment. But the second part to that question is, how do they get their mojo back?
hmm So first, it is so I'll use myself as an example, and when I'm working with clients, because we always do before we talk about the clothing, because I think clothing is the least important part of it. It's your mindset around style. So delving into, let's just trying to asking yourself, why do I dress the way I dress? What messages am I trying to send? And maybe doing a little poll amongst family and friends, close family and friends, and getting a sense of how they perceive your style. And then this is the part that women often find challenging, identifying women who embody some of the characteristics you would like to embody in terms of your personal style. And I recommend this is what I do with my clients. You have to identify at least three different women because you don't want to try to emulate one person's style, but identify three people, whether it's someone in your personal circle, whether it's a celebrity or a politician or whatever. Get some images together of the three people and start identifying similarities and differences and things that you can incorporate into your version of your style. And then when you layer into those elements that I spoke about earlier, considering your lifestyle and your social calendar, professional calendar, how can you make all of that work? So by seeing the visual, that's really important. And then kind of just going through a step by step process to tell your style story, that can help. And then I also have a four-part process. It's like a framework for thinking about your personal style, and I call it the Diva Essentials. And it's an acronym, which I'll go through quickly. Determine what looks good on you: colors, cuts, styles, shapes. I is for invest in yourself. You're going to invest time in understanding like where to shop, what your body type is, what you want to get out of style, how you want to look. Invest time in understanding that. Invest money. Invest money and this is not about having the most expensive things. It's about investing in quality pieces that you perhaps wear more frequently. Invest in tailoring to ensure that the fit is good for you, and invest money in the care and repair of your clothing. And then the V in Diva Essentials is to view your wardrobe as an extension of your personal brand. You touched on that earlier. And then the last piece is add a dose of your personality. So that's where the accessories and the hair and the glasses and the fun socks and the shoes, that's where all that stuff comes in. So if you don't want to, if you want to keep your wardrobe pretty classic and neutral, have fun with the other elements that you can more easily swap out and have fun with.
Those are absolutely terrific tips. One thing that I would add, especially for women, is make sure you have good undergarments. That's an old-fashioned
Yes.
word, but it's appropriate for a podcast. So I think everybody knows what we mean, because
Mhm.
that can make all the difference in how your clothes look.
And that's another thing I encourage all of my clients. I would like to say require, but I can't make anyone do anything. But really, it doesn't benefit you to have an engagement with me and not invest in the proper support garments. Bra fittings, get a bra fitting at least annually, or if your weight fluctuates enough to, affect the support of your bras. That is a critical thing. Most women are walking around wearing an incorrectly sized bra.
Yeah, that facts there. Okay, so here's an interesting question. Again, the world has changed so much. So, I used to be a Nordstrom girl. I used to love to go into Nordstrom's and meet with a personal stylist and try things on and get suggestions and look at things that I wouldn't have normally looked at. Well, brick and mortar stores are not what they used to be.
Ugh.
Um, and they rarely have things that actually would be my size to try on so I could see if I liked it or not, which
Mhm,
means that we have to use online shopping
mhm,
and guess a lot of times at what our sizes are, because even when you measure and follow the style chart, not so much. So you're trying things on, you're sending them back, but you're often trying them on in the privacy of your own bathroom or your own home. How do you how would you say that somebody can most effectively evaluate whether it's right for them or not? Because we're not getting the feedback we used to have when we were in a
mm,
store and we could walk out, of the dressing room, and, maybe even other salespeople would say, "Oh, I love that," or "Here's something else you might want to think about." Because
mhm.
we've lost so much of that. How do we get a little bit of that back, still utilizing online resources, or maybe a virtual stylist? Maybe I just teed you up right there.
So I do offer in-person and virtual styling services, but assuming that you don't have access to a stylist, um, perhaps you can create a small and informal group amongst friends, and where you share feedback amongst one another. Maybe have a periodic, like party where you try on clothing. Maybe it's the first Sunday of every month or the last Friday of every month. Get together and do a little fashion show. One thing I do for myself, I haven't done it as much recently as I have in the past, but every once in a while I get inspired to just start trying on clothes. Get a glass of wine or a glass of water, or juice or whatever. Put on some fun music. Do it by yourself or with some friends and start trying things on. Give each other feedback. Also, even though I am a personal stylist, I follow other personal stylists. Following influencers, it's a little, I find that it can be a little more intimidating because you see all these fabulous people wearing these fabulous clothes, but not really helping to customize based on your own situation. So, following personal stylists who give a lot of practical tips on, identifying your body shape and what things look good on you. The thing is, there's a ton of information out there, but I think it's overwhelming. But if you just make one or two shifts, like to start thinking about style, acknowledging that it's an important part of who you are and what you bring to the table, that's step one. Step two, start seeking out a couple of resources. Personal stylists, fashion accounts, even, so you referenced Nordstrom earlier, they do have in-store personal stylists. If maybe set up an appointment just as an exploratory type of situation. whether they have a lot of your sizes or not, because the stylist can give you free information and advice and recommendations and likely order things that are in your size. So take advantage of all the free resources that are available. But I think the most important thing is making a decision to incorporate style into your life strategy. And then I think once you put some intention into that, you other resources and information will start revealing themselves to you. But as you mentioned, if you do really want to take some of the do it yourself aspect out of it, hiring a personal stylist is a great thing to do. And my advice there is, if you are looking for a personal stylist, you definitely have to go to their website, get a sense of what they're about. Are they quoted in articles and magazines? Is their content outside of their own ecosystem, so you can get a real feel for what they're all about? Do their values align with yours? And another thing with personal stylists, so with me, I do focus on women 40 plus, professional women 40 plus. And when I say professional, that means entrepreneurs, people who are in the corporate space, nonprofit. So professional women overall, and women 40 plus, because we have unique needs. So when looking for a personal stylist, who are their clientele? Do they have an area of expertise? Things like that.
Yeah, those are fantastic tips. And you may not be able to quote this off the top of your head, but I'm going to put you on the spot anyway. Are there any stylists that are on social media that you particularly like or would recommend that we check out?
Well, anything that I'm going to recommend is going to be extreme because
That's okay. We like well, I'm going to say I'll speak for myself. I like extremes.
so in terms of like an everyday style, there is a woman, and she looks like she's doing more celebrity styling now, but it seems like she appeals to the everyday woman also. Her name is goodness, Germany G. So that's Germanee, and her last name is G. But she, not but, she appeals to like a funky, edgy kind of style. And honestly, that's a lot of. I'll give a lot of recommendations. There's a gentleman. His name is Law Roach, and he
Oh, I
styles
know who
for
that is. Yeah.
Zendaya. Oh my goodness. So in terms of, flair, like I love all the over the top, big, bold type people. Um, but there's like it's all over. It's all over. So there's a woman, her name is Everyday Style with Jen. She has an amazing podcast, and she appeals to the everyday woman. So I actually like a variety of stylists and a variety of types of style. And I'm promoting other stylists because, you know, I attract a certain type of woman. I may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I do believe that style should be available to everyone. So that's why I'm happy to, share resources because, I'm not for everyone. I like helping women really pull out those parts of them that feel like they're not accessible. Like I'm the type of woman who helps inspire my clients to do things that they never thought they would do, but still feel like them.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, last question before we go into the into my final section. So, I alluded to it earlier. We didn't actually get a chance to talk about it, but I do want to talk about when you're on stage. So, a lot of us, like I say, do public speaking, and I don't know if I do it right or wrong, but it's something that I've always put a lot of thought into. I think about my audience. I think about how I'm going to be moving on stage. I think about how are my clothes going to move with me, what shoes I'm wearing, because am I going to trip and fall? Because probably because I'm going to wear too high of shoes because they're cute. But any style tips for when you're on stage? Really tangible takeaways for this group.
Yes, but before I get into that, I would like to say let's free ourselves from the shackles of high heels. Now, for anyone who knows me, I am a high heel girl. I've been a high heel girl to the point where I've damaged my feet. So I've been all in for high heels for most of my adult life. However, we're in a new time, and I'm not saying get rid of the high heels. I think they are great for strategic purposes, like photo shoots or maybe for after hours, if you know what I mean. So high heels are great, but from a functional and practical standpoint, I don't wear stilettos the way I used to.
Oh, I don't
Um,
either. Yeah.
there are so many stylish options. So make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes because you may have to do a lot of walking. And there's nothing worse than trying to command a room and your feet hurt.
Yeah, I hear you there.
And think about like try in advance to understand the setup of the venue. Will you be standing? Will you be sitting? How high will you be as it relates to the audience? Do you want to wear short skirts? Or skirts that even if they're long enough when you're standing up, when you sit down, are your thighs exposed? So think about those types of things. Think about the sheen of the material. Think about whether you are going to be mic'd up and how, because if you have on something with thin fabric, it may not support the microphones and things. So thinking about your style again from a strategic standpoint, and then thinking about who's your audience? What message are you trying to convey with your style? And
Yeah,
yeah.
those are fantastic tips. One other thing I have started doing is I start asking what the backdrop is going to be,
Mm,
um, because I don't want to blend into the background. So if they're
mhm.
going to have a bright blue background, I don't want to wear a bright blue dress or outfit. So that's one thing that I started doing, and that helps me. It helps inform my decision about what I'm going to choose to wear on on stage. So anyway, I don't know if that helps anybody else, but that has helped me in the past. All right. Okay. So in out of respect for your time and the audience's time, I try to keep these under 45 minutes, which means we need to get to my 5 burning questions. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. What is your absolute favorite food in the world, and can you cook it?
Okay. This answer may annoy you. It annoys my family. I generally don't have favorites of anything because I like so many things.
It doesn't annoy me.
However, let's think of so let's say, yeah, everything that I really, really, not everything, many things that I really, really like, I can cook. For example, dishes like lasagna. I can make, pretty good macaroni and cheese. I make an amazing Chilean sea bass. So I'm a
Mm,
pretty decent cook. So I don't have a
okay.
favorite, but many things that I like, I can cook.
That's fair enough. Okay, so what character trait do you admire most in other people, and why?
I love people who are straight shooters, but also compassionate, but people who speak their mind and create boundaries. Because in the past, that's something that I struggled with. But now that I started emulating that type of behavior and establishing boundaries, it's making for a happier life.
I like that. Okay, so now if I flip the mirror on you and I ask the question, what character trait in yourself are you most proud of, and why?
Um, All right. I know this is a professional audience, and this is sexist and all that,
You
but
can
I
say whatever you want.
appreciate good. I think that I have a big set, and I think I have cojones, and I think I have chutzpah and all that stuff. And I'm proud of myself for not caving into some of the fears that I have to prevent me from pursuing my dreams and building my business. So, when I was younger, people used to think I was shy, and I'm not shy. I'm an introvert, and introversion wasn't as big as it is now. But now that I know what I am, it gives me a sense of power because I am very passionate and vocal, and I can be outspoken, and I'm all these things that don't align with that characterization of shy. But people thought that I was so quiet and shy, and sometimes you allow people to define you. But once I started discovering who I was and that I really do have a voice that matters, I just feel so much more confident. So that's what I admire about myself.
I love that. Okay, so what's one thing anybody can do to elevate their personal style?
Oh, so I said it before, but I'll reinforce it. Um, Admit that style matters. And it's not just a superficial and shallow thing, and it's something that you want to work on. And consider it an investment in yourself, just like you invest in your education and your home and anything else that's important. Make this important. Make the decision to lean into style and use it as a part of your strategic presentation. And you see, I talk with my hands a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm over here, doing all so yeah, it's all good. Again, this audience or this podcast will reach a lot of professional women, and I will say, we don't hesitate to invest in ourselves when it comes to professional coaching in other areas. So, this would be something that we might want to think about as far as an extension of our brand, our message, and just elevating our personal style. So I do love that. Okay. That's one of my favorite questions. What is your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Um, People would be surprised to know that um, when I get my house built from the ground up, I'm going to have a stripper pole installed in one of the rooms.
You know what? I bet a lot of people would be surprised to hear that, but I think that is amazing. You go, girl. You do not need to designate which room it will be in. We'll leave that to the imagination. Okay. Last question. Who is the one person, famous or not, living or not, that you would most love to be able to sit down with and have a conversation, and why?
This is one of those questions. And I used to struggle with this. I've been asked a version of this question previously, and it really took me a while because I'm like, I don't know. But then it just hit me. So I spoke earlier about being fearful and finding my voice and things like that. I look at what I do as providing a service to women because I know how important it is to look good, whatever that means. We know how much pressure society puts on us, so on and so forth. So I provide a service, and I'm not comparing myself to this person that I'm about to name. This person provided, I can't even explain the contribution she made to history. And I wonder how she mustered up the courage to do what she did. Harriet Tubman. Like, how
Fabulous.
badass is that? Right? Like,
That is, and you're the first one that has come up with that. But what a fantastic choice! And you're correct. I mean, to come up with that kind of courage and conviction is amazing. Okay, well, I know there's going to be people that are going to want to get in touch with you. So, how would people connect with you, learn more about your services, about your book, about your podcast? Because I didn't spend nearly enough time talking about those things. I'm very sorry. I
that's
hogged all of your
okay.
time.
It's okay. You can find out about me by visiting thefearlessfashionista.com. And it's spelled just like the way my name is, the way it's spelled on the screen. I'm active on Instagram. That's where you get to see a little bit of my personality and really understand what I mean about the bold and, my selections of music. I grew up in the hip hop era, so I'm into hip hop and I'm into things that are bold and big and bright. So check me out on Instagram. And then I have my podcast, The Secrets of Stylish Women, that's available on YouTube, soon to be on other platforms. And then I'm actually I have a book. It's called Find Your Fabulous. The Fearless Fashionista Approach to Developing and Owning Your Style. That's also available on my website. And I'm going to gift a copy to one of your viewers, Nancy. So the first person to email me and say Nancy made me do it in the subject line will win a copy of my book. I will send it to you so you can reach me at lauren@thefearlessfashionista.com. And I'll actually put that in the chat.
What a wonderful gift to the audience. Thank you for that offer. I'm sure people are typing it in as we speak. Thank you so much, Lauren. It exceeded my wildest expectations. Such a great conversation.
Thank you.
I
I
know that
agree.
I know from the interaction that there was a lot of people that were super interested in this topic about what you had to say and about how to elevate their personal style, and maybe even a couple of opportunities might arise from this one. So anyway, thank you again. Thank you to the audience for joining us and the great participation today. And I will see everyone next week.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone.